had to be another thing that just happened to be available to them that they happened to shove in this.
Yeah.
To like this is a free gag. Let's just, because it doesn't make any, like, does that happen in movie making?
Yeah. So with this one, they had a little bit of a budget, but it was so rushed. So it could. It's a great question. I don't know if that was just laying around, because they talk about that in behind the scenes documentary. From what it seems like, they didn't have much money, so they just kind of maybe found something really quick and then just half-assed it. Because there's a few.
Because they had it. If I recall correctly, they had $5 million, which Renny thought was huge because he had $1 million for his previous horror movie. But Robert Shea is like, I'm only giving you $5 million. Like, it's not a lot of money. And he's like, oh, great. I'm sorry, Mark. You were saying about the budget.
You know where the budget went in this movie. I mean, there's certain shots that take. That cockroach shot was months in the making. I mean, and you got to pay somebody for that. Like, that's where all the budget goes. But for this one, I remember them just laughing about how cheap it was. So I think it was just them putting something really cheap together, or finding something cutting. There's only a few holes cut in it. It's the weirdest shot. Renny wanted more. Yeah. But I was watching a behind the scenes, another doc on YouTube, and there's a thing where I think they called him Teddy Harlin. They messed up his name one time. I just want to say it. But I do love. No, that's a great question, John. And they touched on it. I just think it was a super cheap thing. So maybe they found it. Maybe they just borrowed it from another set. Someone else was using it. But they made a joke about it, and I didn't write it down, which I'm kind of bummed about.
See, that's the most baffling thing of all the things that I question in this movie. Again, the beach scene, whatever. There's a beach. Well, they made a scene of it, okay, and then they made a special effects gag, which probably wasn't very expensive to do. The most expensive part of that gag was probably the fact that you had the exploding sandcastle, right? Mm-hmm. But making the Freddy Claw shark's fin, that might have arguably cost them $200.
It could be.
Of course, you have to have a rig, I guess, to run it on. Maybe that's more expensive than I'm realizing. They could have co-opted something else. But, like, they made something of that, right? And that robot hand, even if it was just the ripped-off arm of the robot that was making a phone call at the Inventors Convention in Gremlins.
Yeah.
Because that's what I thought
the time machine.
It makes a lot of sense. That time machine that works. Yeah.
If that happened to be next door and they used something, but still they made something creepy, whatever. That spinning tunnel scene, every time I feel like I've ever seen this movie, I'm shaking my head like, spinning tunnel, why? What are you doing here? You don't serve anything. If we skipped those 9 seconds, the movie is no less rich, which makes it's the one thing in this whole movie that strikes me as just a greedy, cheap, crass grab at something.
I agree. It was in the script, and they wanted to execute, but they just couldn't execute it correctly.
That was in the script?
It had to have been.
That thing was in the script?
It had to have been, because you still have to get the light gels. You can't just set that up in a day. So you have to find studio space, which means you're renting a studio. You have to find the materials. You have to deliver it. You're not going to do a company move from your stages to find that, because then you got to move your entire unit, which is more money. So you want to find something in the stages that you can make as cheap as possible to save money. So they had to have been planning that.
I feel like I'm going to one day see a 1987 or an early 1988 released movie.
With the exact same tunnel.
With that tunnel.
Yeah.
Very few holes.
Killer Clowns was 88.
Imagine if it was that good looking, though. Like, imagine if they pulled that off. If it was something better.
With the light and the mist and the smoke coming in.
Better cut.
It was a great shot of Freddy at the end of that tunnel, by the way.
It looked creepy as hell, yeah.
They made the best of it. I just question, why is it here?
I guarantee everybody on set hated it. And Renny showed up and went, what is this? You know, he's like, what? And so remember on the behind the scenes thing, they shot splinter units too. So Renny would be on the main unit, and as opposed to everyone doing something the next day, they would have a smaller unit, which is something a lot of movies do, where a little splinter is off to the side doing the special effects shot. So you don't have to go back another day with the full crew. So maybe Renny just thought, gave it up to his production designers, and okay, you got this.
Or perhaps he's in Finland, and as a child, before you go to church, now we go to the spin tunnel, the Kleinstefast. Oh, the Kleinstefast, yes, it is so much fun. Let us spin the tunnel. Oh, look, there's a dark man. He wants to play the game. Oh, quick, why don't you give him some of your fish? Oh, I do not have a can of fish. In the spin tunnel. Oh, he comes with the claws. And then he puts it in the movie as an adult.
Come, children, I have chocolates on this side of the tunnel.
Would you like some chocolate? Or perhaps some mackerel? A pickled mackerel?
Mackerel?
Ew. I'm staying on my side of the tunnel if you're offering pickled mackerel.
Actually, my mom loves pickled herring, actually. She has a bunch of Swedish in her, so all those Swedes and Norwegians, they housed pickled herring.
The chocolate!
But yeah, no, that's a great question, and I really need to go back and watch Never Sleep Again, because they did talk about that. And they all laughed about it, though. So it just seems like a big joke on their set. And it should be.
I got a question for you guys. Did you ever watch MTV with headphones on?
No. But I would sit there requesting music videos. Because
Joey totally had the 60-foot headphone cable connected to the stereo that ran through the cable, and he just watched MTV literally anytime he was not in school. So I was wondering if that was a thing.
Didn't Johnny Depp watch TV with headphones in part one?
Yeah.
It was definitely homage, man. Yeah, because they both died the same way, too, in a crazy bed.
Whoa.
Death. Yeah.
Man.
Because MTV through the headphones, I mean, yeah. I guess you would have to do stuff like that because you couldn't go to Napster and just rob songs. Mm-mm. You know, if you want to be cheap, you either tape songs off the radio or on VHS, right?
I was lucky. I grew up like on the second floor of my house when I grew up with my mother. Like the second floor was kind of like a hallway, and it was like 4 rooms, and I was on one end and she was on the other end. And that way, like, so unless you're cranking the hell out of the music, you can like watch TV and it's not going to wake someone up or keep someone up. 20 feet down the hall, 2 closed doors. Whereas I think like most houses, that second floor where the bedrooms were, those classic two-story houses, it's almost like you walk upstairs and it just explodes into doors. Like there's just 5 doors within 5 feet of you or 8 feet of you. And each one is like, there's like a closet, a bathroom, a bedroom, and a bedroom. And you can just hear everything that's going on.
How obsessed do you have to be with MTV to plug headphones into your stereo? It's just real.
I used to call and request Today by the Smashing Pumpkins and then Regulators by Warren G. I used to call up my buddy and I would sit there. Can you guys play this song? And then where we got through, which one should we do? And then it was either Today or that. And we were like, did we burn our pick? Yeah. So hey, fine.
I always like that Mad Max video of the California. Knows how to party. What song is that? California Love? Was that the name of that song?
California Love. That's right.
Video.
Welcome everybody to the Wild West.
Yeah. Actually, I listen to a lot. That's a good video.
Dre and Tupac and all.
That's when a lot of money was spent on those videos.
Oh yeah. $1 million videos were.
That was like Fury Road before Fury Road.
That's
those scenes. Were they in Namibia?
They weren't like the ones I worked on. That's for sure. So hey, final thoughts about this movie, guys. Just sum up your thoughts. You can either give me your favorite moments or your final thoughts. Let's hear it. So, Norbert, final thoughts or favorite moments. What do you got for this movie?
The greatest lines in the whole series to me, I am eternal, which is so much better than I am forever that he says in part 5 or 6. And then the number one line, like I said before, I've been guarding my gate for a long time, bitch. Slap. Just like, oh, great. Freddy's a badass. This is my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street of the original series before Freddy vs. Jason. 100%.
Sayonara, Rick.
And the trilogy here. That's right. The trilogy. You find your balance, Rick. You're killing me now. But yeah, out of the original 6, 3, 4, and 5, they tell a perfect arc. I mean, for Christ's sake, even the alcoholic father gets a resolution. It's just a good trilogy of movies. And this one, it's brightly lit. Might not have a big budget, but it looks great. And that cockroach murder, for God's sake, I mean, I can't eat right now thinking about that cockroach murder. That's it, man.
John?
Bitch.
I think Freddy is even more iconic and impactful than people even realize that it is when they think they know all these characters. People only know that Michael Myers was Laurie Strode's sister because they redid that timeline 3 damn times over the course of decades. And so there are 2 remakes essentially telling you that, right? That's the only reason people in their 20s know that. Otherwise, they just say Michael Myers is a mass killer who may or may not be coming for his sister, and they have no idea the origin, right? Jason Voorhees. I think that people think that he's a masked, unkillable killer. If you're in your 20s today, you didn't grow up with it. You fancy horror a bit. And he's just a mass killer who goes around killing people, and he's unkillable, and he keeps coming back. People don't understand that he drowned to death and that his mother was the first killer, and then he was a killer, and then eventually he became undead. And it took movies to do that. They don't know the story. I think that even a 25-year-old who's only seen 50 horror movies ever knows that Freddy came back to kill the children of the parents who burned him.
Yeah.
It's so real. Yeah.
I'm serious. I think that people who haven't even seen the movies know more about Freddy than they do these other famous killers. And so for this reason, I plead with any listener who just errantly watches one Nightmare on Elm Street movie a year. Most of the years it's part 1, around Halloween probably. Most of the years it's part 1. One year you catch part 3 sometime in October. Another year it's a date night and AMC's doing a marathon and you happen to watch part 5. And you're watching them randomly. I plead with you, 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5, baby.
Watch them back to back and you'll realize that every single one of them is better than you ever thought any one of them was. And that there's so much more here than you realize, because when you visit these as an occasional tourist, which I did for the first 20 years of me watching Freddy movies, by the way, right? But these things there's more to I'm not going to call them art, but there's more art to them than you realize.
Yeah.
They're deeper and richer and meaner and more thoughtful than you realize. So please give them a chance. Pick next Halloween. Watch part 3 one week, part 4 one week, and part 5 another week. You can watch any of the Freddy movies you want, but watch those 3 and watch them in order. And I think that you'll pleasantly surprise yourself and realize why you know more about Freddy, even if you don't remember part 1 or 2 very well, than you do any of these other people. There's a reason. It's because it's more Americana than the others. It's because your parents and older brothers talked more about how much it hit them than the others. Halloween's a great film, right? Especially for its time. But the depth of the kill, the depth of the mythology, didn't exist there. It was scary because it wasn't there. This is scary because they did a good job building it. Give this a chance. And then after that, rewatch the Saw series in order, but that's a taller order. Because I'll say the same thing about that.
So apply all of that to Renny Harlin films, and that's my final thought right there. His movies are better than people realize. I think he deserves more credit. So
he's because he shows up maybe as an entertainer first.
During the making of this movie, he's like, this is what people want. This is what people want. This is what people want. And it made a ton of money, and it's still popular. So yeah, he was right. I mean, it's what people wanted. So it was good. All right. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you for joining me, guys.
That's right. No problem. Thank you for helping me come back to a time when Americans were just openly rooting for serial killers.
All right, so this was fun. So for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for John Levengood, and for Norbert Morvan, this is Movies, Films, and Flicks. We'll see you next week.